all good until until it went all down. Everything was going right until it went all left. I'm going to explain how. I have a book and I wrote everything down just to make sure I don't miss any detail. So I'm about to explain exactly how me getting here went. Well, I'm not gonna read all the way, but I'm just gonna start with reading. I said this week will go down as one of, if not the most stressful week of my life. I don't usually get easily stressed, but there's a point in this story where I was super anxious, and that is no great feeling. So, Tuesday, departure from Madrid, with a transit in Portugal, where I had to get down and take my luggages. That means exit into the country, right? Before checking back in for my transit flight to Madrid. But I don't have a visa to enter Portugal. For context, you're allowed to enter Spain with no visa for only a duration of 90 days or less if you have a specific passport, as in from some countries. But my country is not one of those. But usually with pros, the team gets you an invitation letter for you to come to the country with as a visitor in time for the medical check, training camp, and all of that. And while you are here, they apply for your work visa. But I had an invitation, but that invitation letter only worked in Spain. So I had landed in Portugal at 11 a.m. local time. The team tried everything, but the law is the law, and the border police is strict and firm on that. So by 6 p.m., the only solution was to fly back to where I came from, Canada, and take a direct flight to Spain. Because either way, the invitation letter I had was not valid for entry in Portugal, only in Spain, and that's a maybe. You're gonna understand why. So the police gave me two options. I was in Portugal at 6 p.m. They said, either we put you on the flight back, we're gonna stamp on your passport refusal of entry, which might cause you issues later when you want to travel, or you pay for your flight back and we give you your passport and you leave like nothing happened. Of course, I'm gonna go for the second option. So I told the team, they got me a flight back to Canada, but the next flight available was the next morning at 11 a.m. Mind you, I had been there at 11 a.m. that day, and it was now 6 p.m. and the next flight available was 11 a.m. the next day, so 24 hours later. But mind you, I was in a waiting area with the police, a restricted area where only people with no correct entry form to the country get brought. I mean, at least I could move around, walk, have Wi-Fi, even if it was terrible, but I had my phone. Not like what happened in Spain 2 days later, which was worse. The only issue I had at that time was, by that time was, where do I sleep tonight? My agent, who by the way was fantastic throughout this whole situation, he wanted to get me a hotel, but of course I could not leave the country, so they didn't allow it. They said, you're gonna sleep here. Here where? There was only chairs. How do I sleep, right? I tried to sleep the best I could, but I was jet lagged. I didn't get much sleep. I edited my previous video, which was my last week in Canada before I leave to play pro in Spain. So if you have not watched that, you should. It's a great video. Back to the story. The next morning comes and I get a police escort straight from the restricted area at like 10:45, right before the gate closes, right to the gate, and that's when they hand me my passport back, and I just jump in the plane, like as if I was a threat to the country. But I guess it's just protocol, right? So remember, I was taken straight from the border police to the gate, so I never collected my luggages. I went with two luggages, a backpack, and a carry-on. By that time, I still had the backpack and the carry-on, but the two luggages, as soon as I landed in Portugal, they took me straight to the whatever that thing was, and straight from there to the gate. So I never touched my luggages. So they were still in Portugal. They told me the night before, they were like, you're gonna put your luggages on the next flight, on the flight you take. But when I get to the gate, I asked about my luggages and they're like, they're not on this flight, but we're gonna get them on the next flight. We're gonna send it to your address. And I'm like, as soon as I land in Canada, I'm taking the next flight to Spain. Because what the team did, they got me a flight back to Canada, and 2 hours later, a direct flight to Spain with no stop, with no transit. So I tell them that, and they're like, there's no issue. We're gonna send the luggages to your address. You have to claim, and whatever address you put on it, that's where we're gonna send the luggages to. So I was like, all right, cool. I jumped on the plane. and I was back in Canada, in Montreal. I spent 2 hours there, and then I'm on the flight to Spain, and I land at 6 a.m. Remember, I had originally left Ottawa Tuesday at 6 p.m. and I just landed now in Spain at 6 a.m. on Friday. So that's 3 days later, right? Once more, I get to borders, I show them my passport and the invitation letter, but I get denied entry again for no visa. I mean, which made sense because like if I get denied entry in Portugal, why would I be allowed in Spain? Like it's Europe, it's Schengen territory, it's connected. Borderline is I do not have a visa. So I'm talking to the team, I'm talking to my agent. A lot of things are being said and done, and this is where my stress levels went up because I thought the only option in Portugal was to send me back to Canada. So would that be the same result here? I ended my lease, so I have no apartment. I graduated, so I have no school unless I do a master's, which I don't want to do. I already quit my varsity team, so I can't just go back. Well, maybe I can, but I don't want to. So what am I gonna do? Am I gonna go back home to Cameroon? I don't know. Am I gonna go to Canada and figure it out? I don't know, and I don't want to know because I have no business being in Canada. I basically moved out of the country. So now I'm on the phone with my mom crying. Like I genuinely felt lost. And she was there praying for me. And she said word for word, she said, I have a feeling. I think you're gonna stay in Spain. I can sense it. I'm not as stressed as I was when you were in Portugal. Be positive, believe. And she kept praying. I just said amen. And I wanted to believe, but I just thought the law is the law. And if that's a rule, I don't think anything can be done. Well, unless, because I thought, unless the club calls the embassy and they issue something to get me through the border police. So I'm going back and forth with the GM, the board members, my agent, and a couple hours pass. It's now 12 or 1 p.m. It's like 6-7 hours later. 6-7. And I get called and told I'm getting denied entry because of lack of necessary documentation. And in my head, I'm thinking that means, referring to what happened in Portugal, I'll get sent back to Canada. But this time, they didn't give me the option to cover my own flight, which means they will stamp entry denied and dirty my passport. And as I'm thinking, they say you're about to be taken to a room where you will wait for a lawyer to come represent you in front of a judge to see if you should or should not be allowed entry. Damn. Where are you going? All right, cool. Where was I? Like at this point, I don't know if it's good or bad. I'm confused. I'm lost. I'm like, wait, lawyer, judge. Like, am I being? What is it? Persecuted? Prosecuted? Persécuté. That's the word in French. And because the whole time I was talking to the GM, keeping him in the loop of what was happening, I grabbed my phone to text him, and security comes behind me, and I just hear no phones. I swear, those are the those are the only English words she mentioned and that I heard for the next couple of hours. So I get taken to an office, get patted down, stripped. They take my phone, all electronics. I had a tennis ball and a crossball in my bag. They took that too, and they just left books. And the last thing I'm trying to do right now is read. Like, anyways, during this whole process, she's having a full-on convo with me. The security guard, there's two of them. Like, she looks me dead in the eye and she just raps a bunch of Spanish. I'm like, no entiendo. Like, I don't know what you're saying. Like, try something. She's not even making any hand gesture. She just looks at me. I'm like, huh? But me, I was just trying to tell her, I just need to let somebody know of what is happening. Because I'm not a terrorist. I just came here to play basketball. Can you just let me text somebody to let them know what was happening? But I take my phone and there's no Wi-Fi where we are. And I don't have data because I'm in a foreign country. So then we go back and forth. She's like, I need your phone. And she gives me a piece of paper and a pen. And I figure out that she's telling me to put some numbers down that I'm gonna want to call, or that I'm supposed to want to know what's happening to me at the moment, right? So I do that, and now they take me to another room. I walk in, and another woman looks me dead in the eye and just raps Spanish. I'm like, like, please, let's not do that again. She just grabbed the phone, went on Google Translate, and we had a full-on conversation through Google Translate. So she tells me that the process is gonna take a couple hours, as in waiting for the lawyer, and how there's two phones in the room that only receives calls, no outbound, So then she gives me this broken old phone and tells me to message whoever might want to contact me while I'm in here. So I message the GM and my mom, but she's back home, and I know it costs a lot to call in Europe. So I just tell her what's happening and not to bother calling. I tell her I'm gonna call her once I get my phone back and once everything is sorted out. But of course, she called every hour. And we're 5 in a room, all different cases, but similar root problem. No visa, or at least no necessary documentation for entry. So by then it was Friday afternoon. I had not slept in the last 48 hours because I couldn't sleep in Portugal. And I could not sleep on the planes either. Because imagine, I went from Canada to Portugal, 5 hours difference. Couldn't sleep that night. Took the next flight the next morning. Back to Canada, could not sleep on the flight because it was in the morning. And then from there, 2 hours later, I took the next flight to Spain. So imagine, to Portugal, different 5 hours, come back to Canada. It's normal time, but different 5 hours from where you were. And then going back to Spain, 5 hours difference from Canada, which is the same time as where you were second, which is Portugal, if that makes any sense. So I was tired, I was exhausted, I had a headache, and all I could hear was just Spanish because it was 4 Colombians. But remember, we're in a room with 2 phones, but only inbound calls, no outbound. So when the phone rings, the closest guy to the phone picks up the phone, and we all look at him like, hoping that the call is for us, right? Because everybody that I wanted to let know that I'm in the room, I gave them that number, same as the other guys. So everybody that wanted to contact us in the room had the same number. Hours go by, and then miracle. The GM calls me, and he says the government came through, and I'm getting issued a special visa. I'm like, are you sure? Like, are you sure? And he says, 100%. I'm sorry about this, my friend. You're staying in Spain. I love you. That's what he said. And that felt good because, I mean, the season hasn't started yet. But to see and know that a team cares enough to go all out and sort it out feels good. Since the denial in Portugal, instead of flying me back to Canada, then to Spain, they could have just said, yep, we're tired, buddy. That's it. Bye. But no. So the woman calls me and she says, well, on Google Translate, she tells me that my visa is here, but I have to pay 90 euros in cash to get out. But I have no cash, at least not enough. So we called the team, but she's like, they can't transfer it because we needed cash. And I was in Madrid, and the team is 2 hours away by train. By that time, she's like, well, I don't know how, but I need the cash by 6 p.m. and it was 5:40. She's like, if you can't get it by then we're gonna have to try again tomorrow. So in that, I'm like, there's no way after all of this it gets sorted out and I'm about to sleep here another night. No way. Now, I'm about to tell you how the room looks like. You get in, there's a table, chairs, 2 phones, and inbound calls only, and then bunk beds and toilets. So it's worse than a prison because at least in prison you can call. There you could not call, you can only receive calls. And the bunk beds, it's only mattresses and no sheets. So everybody that went by that room slept on there. So I was like, there's no way I'm sleeping on that. Like, I was ready to sleep on the floor that night. If I was staying that night, I was like, yeah, I'm sleeping on the floor. So there was just table, chairs, bunk beds, toilet, and the 2 phones. That was it. Like, the room had nothing else. Just 4 walls, no phone, no way of distraction. All you could do is think about your situation and how fucked up you are in the moment. That's crazy. So my agent and the GM called, and I told him, listen, I cannot sleep here. There's no way. Last time I touched the bed was Monday night, and it's Friday evening. I have not slept at all in the last 48 hours. My back hurts. No. So the GM said, let me see what I can do, and eventually called me back and said he tried everything, but since they can't take transfer, it's basically impossible. At least I have my visa, so I'm getting out first thing in the morning. So I was trying to see how I'm gonna sleep on the floor and stuff. But an hour later, a security guard comes and she says, Cameroon? Like, pointing at me, and I'm like, yeah? She's like, she basically signals me to pack my stuff and come. In my head, I'm like, another miracle. I wasn't supposed to get out before the next morning. So she grabs the rest of my stuff they had taken away, takes me where I was originally waiting to get my passport back, and I'm in the country around 9 p.m. after arriving at 6 a.m. in the morning. Or at 6 a.m. That basically means in the morning. So the team got me a hotel, and my train for Cordoba was the next morning. Even though I was tired, I still took my time getting to my hotel. I mean, I was in Madrid after all, so I was just took my time, explored, look around, walked slowly, and I woke up just in time the next morning to miss my train by 2 minutes. So I texted the team and they got me on the next train to Cordoba, which was 3 hours later. So I just went to McDonald's, sat down, and wrote this story. Now, I get on the next train to Cordoba, and midway it stops because the train in front of us just caught fire and they had to evacuate everybody on board. The team texted me, they're like, well, after all of that, now this has to happen. I mean, I thought the same thing, but I was not bothered because, I mean, at least I was getting where I need to be. Like, at least I was on my way, to Cordoba and not on my way back to Canada. But anyways, during this process, my mom reminded me the road to success is never easy. There's a saying, I don't know exactly what it is, but it goes along those lines. That said, I am ready. I said, I'm ready to have a great season as a first year pro because it would take more than that to break me. But yeah, that is the story of how I went to prison, of how I almost did not start or get to be here, or almost ended up not being a pro, at least not this year. My dreams almost shattered, if that's the word. Most importantly, the story of how whatever happens, of the mist of getting where you're supposed to get, bad or good, you have to keep your head up, your mind straight, and just keep going forward. Because if you can control one thing, it's how you react and how you overcome everything that happens to you. Because whatever comes next is going to be way bigger than whatever tried to bring you down. It only gets you stronger, better, and wiser. So now I'm in Spain. I'm about to start my first season as a pro. So next week you're gonna have my official first week as a pro in Spain. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and if you like the content I'm putting out, just say something, or do something. Just leave a like, a comment. I appreciate every input. It just makes me know there are people out there that see the good and that could benefit from what I'm putting out. So I appreciate you guys. See you on the next one. Peace.